The most traumatized mobster in interwar Britain gets his swan song during the German Blitz. Without the majority of his explosive family, though, the final chapter ends not with a bang, as they say, but a whimper.
The movie is called Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. This podcast is called All Those Moments. I'm Benji Wade.
And I'm Luke Baumgarten.
All those moments will be lost in time, like tears in rain.
All Those Moments is a podcast where we connect social, political, or cultural moments with moments from our favorite movies. If you like spoiler-filled, detailed conversations about movies, you have come to the right place. So, by order of the Peaky Blinders, hit that subscribe button.
That's good.
Luke, I'm going to hit you out of left field to start this episode talking about Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man.
Yeah,
First of all, I bump on that title. Do you like the title, The Immortal Man? I just can't. I hear some weird, ominous, silly voice, movie trailer voice in my head when I see The Immortal Man.
It's like, were they going for a Hemingway thing? Were they going for everybody who was traumatized in World War I either dies or becomes a novelist? I don't know what they were going for there. I don't love it either.
Anyways, I just also want to say, fans of Peaky Blinders, my name is Benji. I come in peace. I neither hated nor loved this movie. So just buckle up, for there will be some things I'll say about this movie and the TV series to some degree that if you're a huge fan of Peaky Blinders, you might not agree with me, but I will be as constructive as I can. Again, I come in peace.
I'm a big Peaky Blinders fan, and I think I might be more critical of the movie than you are, I guess. I watched maybe like the first 2 seasons of Peaky Blinders right about when they came out, and there was a long break. And then I think I watched the 3rd and maybe part of the 4th, and then there was a long break. And then when we decided to do this movie, I watched 5 and 6 in the last couple weeks. You need to have watched the TV series to get a sense of the depth of some of these characters and the nuance, but really it almost seems like not a reboot, but it completely stands apart from the series, because the series wraps up, which I literally just got done watching the final episode of the series like 30 minutes ago.
Yep.
It wraps up pretty conclusively, convincingly, cohesively, and almost like for Peaky Blinders, which is a very bleak but stylish show, about as hopefully as that kind of show could wrap up.
So in case you missed it, Peaky Blinders ran for 6 seasons as a TV show between 2013 and 2022. First with BBC Two in the UK, later with BBC One when it blew up and became popular. And BBC realized they had themselves a huge hit.
Yeah.
Netflix took notice. They licensed the international distribution rights for everywhere outside the UK. It went on to become one of the most, I would say, for both Netflix and BBC, stylistically recognizable pieces of IP that they have on their service.
And I would say, I think of British filmmakers as being pretty kinetic and stylish filmmakers as like a group. I think this has always stood up there to me, which is why, not unlike Sinners, which is also a very cinematic and stylishly shot film, I've always been thinking about this as if Guy Ritchie did a period piece. That's the Peaky Blinders vibe for me.
I think I watched the first 2 seasons, and I remember liking it a lot for those 2 seasons, but I got very bored very quickly by the 3rd season. Not even Tom Hardy could pull me back in. I love Cillian Murphy.
Yeah.
I thought Sam Neill was a great villainous, kind of righteous prick character.
Yep.
I had forgotten. We are going to spoil some things about the TV show. By the way, we will certainly spoil the movie. So I'm going to try not to spoil either one right now, though.
Sure.
I also have and had and will always have a total crush on Annabelle Wallis, who plays his wife, Grace, his love interest, Grace. And I loved her. And you and I talked about this at the end of watching The Immortal Man together, how much I loved the Tudors. And she was a key part of that TV show.
Totally.
And I think Peaky Blinders and the Tudors have a little bit of a crossover appeal to a certain type of audience.
Stylish, sort of modernized version of a period piece.
Totally.
Modern, contemporary music. That's what I've always loved.
A little bit
Peaky Blinders.
Palace intrigue.
Totally.
Yeah, lots of chess pieces moving. Lots of conversations in dark rooms.
A lot of death, a lot of horniness.
A lot of death, a lot of horniness.
Yep.
Very first episode of Peaky Blinders is set at the end of World War I. The last episode of season 6 concludes during the end of the Prohibition era in the United States, which is around 1933. And now the story continues with the Peaky Blinders film, The Immortal Man, which is set at the beginning of World War II. Okay.
Yeah.
Are we ready to dive into this thing?
Let's do it. During World War II, crime boss Tommy Shelby is pulled out of a self-imposed exile, I'll say. Well, let me revise the logline a bit. When a Nazi-backed counterfeit operation threatens Britain, forcing him to confront both fascist conspiracies and the violent legacy of the Shelby Empire.
It was made by a guy called the TV show and the movie are made by a guy, the kind of showrunner and the dude who came up with all the ideas behind it. His name is Stephen Knight. Yep. He is the creator of the original series. He also made a TV show with Tom Hardy called Taboo.
Have you seen this show, Benji?
I have not seen it.
I mean, everything Tom Hardy does is aggressively weird. But it splits. It's another period piece. It sort of is ostensibly about British colonialism, but actually a good chunk of the show, and then I think it only lasted for one season, takes place on Vancouver Island, right in our backyard. It's actually sort of about like
I did not realize
the attempted westward expansion to Asia instead of going, east into Asia for the European colonial powers.
And you watched the whole show?
I watched most of the first season. I think there only was one season.
Oh, it got canceled, didn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Let's see. He also made or wrote Dirty Pretty Things, which I did see a million years ago.
I definitely
Audrey Tattoo?
Yeah, Audrey Tattoo was like 2002. I remember seeing it. I remember it not making much of an impression on me.
Somebody sells their kidney in it, I remember.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
think.
God. Yeah.
He also wrote Eastern Promises, which
Dude, I loved Eastern Promises.
I haven't seen it, man. And I loved History of Violence, so it was this back-to-back
Viggo Mortensen being a real bad boy.
With Cronenberg.
Yeah, no, Eastern Promises is great.
So Stephen Knight, known for writing crime dramas grounded in real British history. That's kind of his thing. The director of this movie is named Tom Harper, and I will tell you right now, I was completely unfamiliar with anything he's done, which includes the BBC miniseries adaptation of War and Peace, which starred Paul Dano, Lily James, and Jesse Buckley, among others.
Interesting.
I didn't even know this existed.
No, neither did I.
Yeah, and I love War and Peace. Like we've talked about in the past that I listened to the Jeff Buckley album Grace while reading War and Peace. He's also directed a few feature films, including one called Wild Rose in 2018, again with Jesse Buckley in the lead role. And his most recent film, a 2023 spy thriller starring Gal Gadot called Heart of Stone, which was both a massive commercial and critical failure and considered one of the worst movies of that year.
Oh. So yeah, Harper also directed the final 3 episodes of the first season of Peaky Blinders.
Okay.
And I think those first couple seasons were kind of Peaky Blinders at its most stylish. I, though, kind of came away from having just recently watched 5 and 6.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this the other day when we were kind of planning things. It's like, without starting to already spoil the movie, it's just like doesn't feel like as cinematically grand. It's weird that like basically, Knight gets his chance. He goes from starting like this is a BBC 2 series. He basically kind of levels up as this IP that he created gets more and more popular.
Yeah.
And then he finally gets a crack at the big screen and it's just kind of drab.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm with you. I feel like that the artistry that I can recall from the first 2 seasons was really impressive. And I looked at some of the creatives behind it. It was shot by a guy named George Steele and Ben Wilson. They both got credit on it, even though it looked like Ben Wilson mostly did second unit. Steele has worked on some TV movies, stuff that we would recognize a little bit of. And then Wilson has been a camera operator on a lot of big TV shows, including Game of Thrones. And he was also the Steadicam operator on Andor. So he's clearly got a lot of ability and experience, but
right.
I agree with you, and I can't wait. We'll flesh out some details about what we're talking about of why this didn't quite feel as impressive from an artistic standpoint.
But in terms of also settings, though, I think part of the drabness just comes from like the movie spends so much time in Birmingham and Liverpool and just like the gritty industrial butthole of England, basically.
Yeah, totally.
It's like there's no opportunity for anything but brown. And that's a bummer. Yeah.
Cillian Murphy obviously returns as Tommy Shelby. We wouldn't have a show or a movie without him.
Right.
He also serves as a producer. And you want to talk a little bit about some of the key cast from it?
There are some original cast members from the TV show reprising their roles, like Sophie Rundle as Ada, Ned Dennehy as Charlie. So like two of Tommy's most sort of loyal henchmen over the years. We're going to talk about almost everybody dies in Peaky Blinders, but one of the happiest things for me is seeing like people like Ned Dennehy's Charlie, a guy named Packy Lee who played Johnny Dogs, which is maybe my favorite supporting character, one of my favorite supporting characters in TV, and just certainly one of the sort of the spiritual heart of the show.
And he does a lot of the best work in this movie too.
Yeah.
So I don't remember him from the TV show because I'm sure he wasn't in seasons 1 and 2.
He gets like more and more important. He's like sort of one of those background characters that kind of comes in as like almost comic relief and as a moral foil later on.
Don't forget our GOAT, Stephen Graham.
Dude, Stephen Graham, who I will, I live and die for, my man, Hayden. He plays Hayden Stagg, another character that sort of shows up at the end of the series, like basically a warehouse boss from Liverpool.
Labor guy. There are 3 massively major new characters in this movie, starting with Barry Keoghan. I guess he pronounces his name Keoghan. I went and looked that up.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. Keoghan. I mean, that makes sense.
As Duke Shelby, the son of Tommy. Rebecca Ferguson as Kaulo. We'll get all into these characters as we go along. And Tim Roth plays a character called John Beckett.
It was filmed on location in Birmingham in 2024. The production notes talk about how it's a much larger scale production, but to me, it didn't really feel that much larger in terms of like the setting and stuff. So it's like,
I was shocked to not find that I thought this was on a studio lot.
Or something. Yeah. Interesting. So they shot obviously in Birmingham, but they also shot in Liverpool, and the canal sequences, which again, like canal sequences are happening throughout the entire show because that's one of the things. Mm-hmm. Those must have been filmed on location in Wrexham, and which is Wales. Wrexham is very popular right now because of the Ryan Reynolds,
of course,
buying the soccer team. But like, it wasn't like, oh, wow, finally they're in a real canal and not a canal on a sound stage. Because I kind of assumed they were doing, like you said, like all in sound stages. If the production budget was bigger, I don't know what that bought them, really,
Yeah, at the risk of stepping on some of our notes about moments from this movie, it feels pretty wasted that they shot all this stuff on location because it definitely didn't feel like it. And I have some specific ideas of when that comes up where I'm just kind of like, underwhelmed. But before that, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk all about moments from the movie, and it's going to be filled with spoilers from here out. All right, let's get into the moments from Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man. I'm going to do that every time. Spoiler warning.
The Immortal Man, isn't it?
Do not proceed if you don't want this movie to be spoiled for you. We're going to talk about every single detail from it. Speaking of spoilers, quite the flex by Netflix. I think, Luke, you missed the first couple, maybe 75, 80 seconds of this movie.
Yeah.
It started with a spoiler warning. I think it was from Cillian Murphy. I'm trying to remember.
Wait, what?
Yes, dude.
How does this work?
I swear it was either a title on screen or maybe I just fabricated and projected that it happened. I could have sworn there was like Cillian Murphy said something kind of like, by order of the Peaky Blinders, don't spoil this movie. Very, very funny because Netflix has been so cagey about theatrical release windows, of course.
Sure.
So it's very funny to have him be like, hey, shut up about this movie when you go home tonight after watching it.
So
don't talk about what happens in this movie. Yeah, it's really weird.
So it's like the Netflix version of like the Tom Cruise Top Gun Maverick.
Yes.
Except like rather than thank you for coming
Save
to
the
theater.
Cinema. Yeah, don't spoil the fucking cinema. But
don't spoil the cinema for the rest of the people who are going to watch it on their phones.
Yes. Anyways, at the very beginning of the movie, we're in Birmingham, England. It's the start of World War II. Britain's in the middle of being bombed by Germany. The economy of England is fucked. And we find out about this because there's some on-screen descriptions of things that are happening. The Peaky Blinders and Clan Shelby have fallen into total disarray. Meanwhile, Thomas Shelby, Tommy, played by Cillian Murphy, has been living in, as Luke described earlier, a kind of self-imposed exile. He's trying to leave behind his violent legacy as head of the Peaky Blinders, and he's writing a novel. But when the war and these new criminal forces threaten both Britain and the Shelby family, Tommy is forced back into the world that he tried to escape. And what happens right at the beginning, and you missed portions of this, there's some titles on screen, but you can see that you're in, I forget the name of the concentration camp, but it's a concentration camp in Germany. And this is all real. There's some titles on screen that introduce this story of something that actually happened in 1940. By Nazi Germany called Operation Bernhard. This is where the Nazis were going to try to ruin the economy of England by flooding it with a bunch of counterfeit money that was being printed and created in these concentration camps throughout Germany. The real life sales manager character that takes on, there's different stages of this Operation Bernhard. And I think the kind of second and third stage of it was which is borne out in this movie, was the idea of taking a lot of this counterfeit money and putting it in the hands of
organized crime.
Organized crime, exactly. So the Peaky Blinders makes a ton of sense. This real life sales manager character who ran this whole operation, that phase of the operation, is a real guy named Friedrich Schwend. It's me attempting to pronounce the German name. But Stephen Knight instead made this character an English traitor and a member of the British Union of Fascists, and named him after a real life dude named John Beckett.
Interesting.
And I immediately was like, this is just from research. I would have not known any of this from watching the movie, but this is what I found out later. Anyway.
Well, there were lots of British collaborators, and like the final 2 seasons of the show are kind of like the lead up, like basically the attempted like Nazification of Britain based on the other real life character, basically like the Hitler, the guy who wanted to be the Hitler of Britain, Oswald Mosley. But I think here's where it's fascinating with like a historical drama. Like you can play fast and loose with some of the rules, but like Oswald Mosley, like right at the beginning of the war, so before this movie even starts, just gets arrested, and the British Union of Fascists was like basically forced underground, and Mosley spent like basically the entire first 4 years of the war in jail. So like you can't like the primary antagonist of the last 2 seasons, and basically the only guy who's on Tommy Shelby's bad side who survives, Oswald Mosley, basically gets escorted out of, off stage by the British government in real life. So like Mosley maybe would have been a character in this if not for history.
So this was their way of creating some continuity from the TV show to the movie.
So it feels like, like we need another British guy.
Pull a thread.
We don't want it to look like it's a German guy who came over. We want this to be about like homegrown British fascism is kind of what it felt like to me. Like that's the character that Roth is. That's like the archetype that Roth is meant to play.
Well, maybe 75 seconds into the movie, the Nazis bomb the Birmingham Small Arms Factory, which is at the kind of the industrial heart of Peaky Blinders territory. And they do this weird thing where they introduce a character. Her name's Agnes. And I'm kind of like, oh, this must be part of the Peaky Blinders network or somebody's family member or something. And then it's a total misdirect because then the factory that she's clocking in to go work at gets bombed.
So did any of the characters mention Agnes dying? Later on?
I don't think they did.
This is one of the things that feels so weird to me.
Yes.
So, is she even? Because there's a bunch of speculation on the internet about like, oh, there's a new Shelby. Who knows who it's going to be? It might have been Duke's. Like there's like on Reddit, people are like, is this Duke's wife or whatever?
There's a possibility I missed it.
Interesting. Okay. So, as the war is raging, Tommy Shelby is actually living kind of a peaceful existence. He's like literally put himself out to pasture along with my main man, Johnny Dogs, and Charlie, 2 of my favorite characters in the show. They're basically what they've always been to him, sort of like his sort of industrial assistants. Like Johnny Dogs is taking care of stuff, and so is Charlie around the place. And Tommy is just focused on reflecting on his past, still haunted by the visions of his daughter Ruby, who died in season 6 of tuberculosis, which is also what made Tommy think he was dying in season 6 was a tuberculoma, basically a tuberculosis tumor. Mm-hmm. He's cut himself off for the whole gang. Again, Charlie's there, Johnny Dogs is there, but other than that, like he's surviving in isolation. I just have to say here, and sorry to ruin the suspense, Johnny Dogs survives this movie, and it's like the best choice Stephen Knight's ever made. That's one of my favorite characters of the last maybe 15 years of television or cinema. He's just such a sweet, innocent, weird soul. It's like the family dog, in a movie, like seeing the family dog run up at the very end. Like, and his name's Johnny Dogs too. So it's just
he's kind of he's more or less the Sancho Panza to
because he's kind of
Tommy Shelby's Don Quixote.
Yeah. But then the quiet life ends when a mysterious woman named Kaulo, played by Rebecca Ferguson, the goddess, breaks into his home and reveals she's the twin sister of Zelda, who is...
I don't remember any of this, not even from the recaps.
Because Zelda does not exist on screen in the universe.
Oh, okay.
It's by the time Duke Shelby comes, so this is Tommy's illegitimate son, shows up, I think, in season 6, but it might have been like the end of season 5.
That's what I read. I read that it was just season 6.
Yeah. This is all these are all new characters from the final season, and Zelda we never actually see.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I guess if you've seen the trailer for this movie, you do realize that Barry Keoghan's in it.
Totally.
So I guess it does, if you've seen the trailer, which if you haven't, it might be a little bit more confusing, but you can kind of get the sense because she's there
Yeah.
has one specific function in that scene, which is to do what?
Yeah. So just, basically warning him that like Duke has gone off the path. Apparently, though, like there's a little bit of a retconning where it seems like in order to make the movie work, like Tommy had like explicitly elevated Duke to basically lead the Peaky Blinders side. In season 6, he talks a lot about there's a light side and a dark side. And like, I basically need my non-traveler son to run the light side of the business. I don't even think that son appears in this movie. And then the dark side is like, I basically need another traveler Shelby to run the dark side of my business.
Oh,
so that's like the intent, but it never explicitly happens on screen.
So the parts of his life that have some propriety, the fact that he's involved with the British government a little bit, he's trying to do some things a little bit more above board, but then all the nasty business he'll give to Duke, his illegitimate son.
Yeah. So the legitimate part of the business goes to his legitimate son. The illegitimate part of the business goes to Duke.
And then Tommy's sister, Ada, which is a really key character from the TV show, visits him. And
she's taken, again, like she was always like the least comfortable sister with the mob stuff. And she's now ascended and taken his place in Parliament. So like she's basically being the light side of the Shelby family. So basically like Ada visits him and he's like in a foul mood about all this stuff. They're basically talking about what his responsibility might be to this kid and to the family and whatever. And he says, and I think this is like him being pretty honest with himself, is like, I was never a father. I was a form of government. And then, of course, this has a double meaning because he's like renounced his parliamentship. Like, there's a sense.
Yeah, he says, I never wanted anything. I don't want anything to do with the government.
Yeah, he said, I no longer believe in government.
There you go. That line happens so early, and it's one of the first times I'm going, man, Stephen Knight can write some zingers.
He can.
There are some very good lines and very good line deliveries in this movie.
And in terms of that, just like really like the kind of dialogue where you're like, God, I wish I was as smart as this character on screen. Like he does that kind of for every character. He's really good.
Totally agree. All right. Back in Birmingham, the situation has dramatically changed since the things that happened in the show. We are introduced, finally, at long last, to Duke Shelby, played by Barry Keoghan. He's leading the Peaky Blinders. He sees the opportunity with this small arms factory exploding to steal all the guns for the Peaky Blinders. Yeah. And the way that he's introduced, I would describe as like punk rock soundtrack. It's got an MCU kind of a vibe, the way that the blocking, the way that the camera's moving around him. It's not fully revealing him. He's set up to be a very big figure, the way that this scene is built. The local cops are there, and they're basically trying to keep the Peaky Blinders from stealing all these guns, but you can quickly tell that there are very few of these cops that haven't been corrupted by the Peaky Blinders, because the way that Duke is posturing, he's not even remotely scared of these kind of Barney Fife cops that are like, hey, get out of here. He even at one point says, there's no problem here. We are volunteer special constables. Yeah. And the way that Barry Keoghan says it, you're just kind of like, wow, he looks a little bit. He's kind of acting a little bit like Tommy in the first couple seasons, right?
Well, I think that's the intent, because one of the things that I think Ada says right before this scene cuts to is basically saying like, you gave him the Peaky Blinders, and he's running the Peaky Blinders like more ruthlessly than you ever did. You thought you were sort of forsaking your legacy, or maybe getting rid of your violent legacy by taking yourself away from the family. But what you really did was just cause a vacuum that now your son is filling in an even more terrible way than you did.
Yeah.
And if that would have paid off a little bit more, like, you know, satisfyingly, like that could have been a pretty interesting plot.
It's got this kind of a feeling. So he picks on the cop that is saying, you can't do this. He beats him up a little bit, stands over him with a cane that is just there as a ornamental, something that he could beat people up with. Got a little Kingpin vibe, but it's Barry Keoghan, so it's kind of funny. He's like a very scrappy, wiry little dude. This was shot on location, presumably in Birmingham, because lots of this was shot in or around Birmingham, but it doesn't look like it. Because there's this moment where the vehicles are staged at this kind of intersection near this factory that had exploded. Yeah. And the number of extras, the positioning of the characters and the props and the vehicles and stuff. And then you see this street in the background. And I took a note about this a couple times.
Interesting.
The matte backgrounds look so chintzy.
Yeah.
They stand out Scooby-Doo style. It's kind of like, oh, there's where the painting is. You can almost see the seams in it.
Wow.
I just thought it's chintz. And I couldn't help but feel like I wrote down, this is like History Channel Gangs of New York.
Oof. So I didn't pick up on that, but yeah, I did not once get a sense that like shooting on location made this a more grand production at all.
Exactly. I think this is the first really good example of that. Duke's aunt and Tommy's sister, Ada, who we've talked about, the MP, she shows up with flowers after the dust settles on this theft that's been borne out by the Peaky Blinders led by Duke. She's got some flowers. She sets them down. She's like, again, back to the whole propriety side of things. She's an MP. She took over that side of the business, the Shelby family, right? And she even has this great line where she says, they want Tommy, but they've got me because the public is there. And this is something that's being photographed. She's out there trying to do good. She's doing good, or at least trying to. She's also quite politically involved with investigating fascist activities, and that's established. And again, I would say this is the second time where I'm like, wow, every transition from scene to scene, the scene building is punctuated so loudly by this very metal soundtrack.
Totally.
This is also the point in the story in the movie where we get to meet this new antagonist for the Shelby family. It's Tim Roth playing the role of John Beckett, who we described very briefly at the start. He's this kind of powerful, very mysterious figure. He's this guy who's the sort of the salesman who's out on the road trying to bring all this counterfeit money into the British economy to bankrupt them and to ruin the economy. He's looking for help from the Peaky Blinders specifically to launder all this money, and he's got his eyes on the Shelby family. He comes in and even says something like, Berlin wanted your father, but I've got you, basically. And Duke has this moment where he tries to put on his big boy pants, and he's like, I'm the boss now. And it's just like, no one believes this. It doesn't really, he doesn't sell it very well. So Beckett is successful in recruiting him. He's like, I'm in, more or less. Right. And then back at the Shelby estate, Tommy is still sulking. He's still writing his book. Kaolo, the character played by Rebecca Ferguson, is seducing Tommy, I would say both sexually and politically. She's got a couple angles she's working on. She says to him at one point, and this is what I love about watching movies with you, my man. She says, we need to communicate without words. And there's like this kind of quiet moment in the theater, and there's like 25 people watching this movie with us at our small movie theater on a Monday at 4:45 p.m. And Luke says this loudly enough for me to hear, let's smash. So they get it on because Luke says, let's smash. And so they do by order of the Peaky Blinders. I don't know. This whole thing was very clunky. And she's like, was it good? And Tommy says, maybe. I don't know. I think it was supposed to be play off as flirtatious. And I felt like this was an odd scene with two actors that didn't want to have on-screen sex. I don't know. It didn't really. Were you picking up the vibes? I didn't feel a chemistry between these two performers.
I think it felt so. It felt unremarkable to me. So I didn't even. I neither bumped nor like was.
You got your one-liner out, and so you were like, I've done my part. Yeah, totally. You amused the movie theater we watched this with. Back in Birmingham, Ada is hot off the trails of figuring out who stole all these guns. She confronts Barry, aka Duke, at a pig farm. She tries to warn him away from the path that he's on. She's going to turn him in for stealing the guns. That seems real obvious. You know, she also gives him a hard time about, gives the Duke character, Ada does, a hard time about stealing these pigs.
Oh, yeah.
Which was kind of funny. And I wrote down, this is real story. I wrote down Chekhov's pigs, ? Guy Ritchie, ?
Right.
Snatch, ? We will come back to that.
And that was exactly what I was thinking in those moments.
Oh, good.
I think I took a note at about the same time.
I don't think
it's pigs.
Yeah, I don't think Stephen Knight hid the evidence very much that might be what he's up to.
Totally.
Beckett then reconnects with Duke, and he has this idea. He's going to give him this kind of hazing ritual to prove that he's loyal to this idea of doing this counterfeit money scheme. So he brings with him to this meeting that they have this character named Virgil, who's like a blabbermouth and a member of the British Fascist League. And it turns out he's been talking openly about the operation with his mistress. So Tim Roth, in an affect I would describe, I'm hearing almost the coward Robert Ford character from Assassination of Jesse James with the Casey Affleck.
Oh, interesting.
Because his voice is real soft spoken.
Because I was going to ask you, like, what even accent is he trying to do?
Yeah.
I couldn't even really pick out, like, he's not doing Liverpudlian, he's not really doing Mancunian, he's certainly not doing Cockney, but he's also not doing like aristocratic, Lord's British.
It's very
English,
very peculiar.
I couldn't really pick it out.
Yeah, but it's very affected.
Yeah.
And I'd say effective. I think that Tim Roth he's got this really interesting menace to him with this Beckett character.
Yeah.
So he basically is like, hey, this dude is not loyal. He's a blabbermouth. And before anything happens, like Duke doesn't hesitate, pulls out his gun, shoots this guy in the head. And Tim Roth like belts out, give him another one, even though he's just shot him right in the head. I think he shot him twice.
Yeah.
It's at this point, the Beckett character, Tim Roth, really leans into his villainy, and he starts to come across as quite sadistic and menacing. He starts to quote passages from the Bible.
Yeah.
One in particular where he's like, we're going to go fall deeper and deeper into the blood until you have to swim out of it. And convincing. I'm like, this guy's pretty gross. There is a problem though, Luke. And here's the problem. He kills this guy. Duke does.
Yeah.
Empties this semi-automatic pistol into this guy to prove to Tim Roth that he didn't just give him another one. He gave him all the ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And then he's like, you have to find a way to get rid of this body. So I'm like, Chekhov's pigs, question mark?
Yeah.
Yep. So now it's time to talk about what I'm calling 6 degrees of Guy Ritchie. Yes, it's true. Pigs. The movie Snatch, if you remember the 2000 movie from Guy Ritchie called Snatch.
Boy, do I ever.
Dude, there's a character named Bricktop who is this East London, incredibly thick Cockney. He wears these Harry Carey glasses.
And just has the biggest teeth that's ever been put to film, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
And he really, the actor, Alan Ford, who plays the part, he's just constantly doing the gummy thing with his teeth. It's super gross stuff. And at one point in that movie, they have to get rid of a dead body.
You're always going to have problems lifting a body in one piece. Apparently the best thing to do is cut up a corpse into 6 pieces and pile it all together. Then I hear the best thing to do is feed them to pigs. You've got to starve the pigs for a few days, then the sight of a chopped up body will look like curry to a pisshead.
And then, of course, who's in that movie, 6 Degrees of Guy Ritchie?
Yep.
Stephen Graham.
And also, though, for my 6 degrees of the traveler culture of Britain, that's also my first experience with the existence of this group of people that Tommy Shelby is a part of was Brad Pitt's character in Snatch.
The Romani characters, aka the Pikeys.
The Pikey.
Which Pikey's probably worse than saying gypsy, Luke. So what are we doing here?
Right.
And Stephen Graham's character's name?
Tommy.
Yeah. So there's this great scene where in that movie where it's like the worst moment for the character Tommy played by Stephen Graham. And it's because they're in trouble with Bricktop.
Yeah.
And he realizes because of the Brad Pitt character knocked out their boxer that they were supposed to go get to fix a fight on behalf of Bricktop.
Yep.
And the moment that Brad Pitt knocks out this dude and hurts him, the Stephen Graham character, there's this great moment. Golden brown texture like sun. Do you know the song?
Oh, yeah.
The Stranglers?
Yeah.
Tommy, that's it. He's praying. And if he isn't, he fucking should be.
Tommy ends up in trouble with this gangster and all this stuff goes crazy. Bricktop is helping these guys get rid of a dead body. And he's like, you got to cut the body into pieces. You feed them to the pigs. You have to starve the pigs first. Mm-hmm. Then they'll go through bone like butter.
That's right.
Anyway.
Yeah, that's a great line.
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I've always, that was kind of what made me think, like, this show has always felt to me like, what if Guy Ritchie did Boardwalk Empire?
You're kind of getting me horny to imagine this show in this world building in the hands of
Guy Ritchie.
I would much more fuck with it. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Back to what's happening with Kaulo and Tommy. Talk to us, Luke.
Kaulo has seduced Tommy sexually and finally succeeds in seducing him politically.
Yeah.
You couldn't save Arthur, you couldn't save Ruby, but you can save your son. So Tommy obviously knows about Duke. He doesn't know how bad Duke's gotten. He now knows about Beckett.
He also confesses to her at this point that about Arthur's death. And he says at this point that it was an accident,
right?
That Arthur was gacked out on opium. This is where it's revealed. This is what I think this is so sloppy how they handle this. But he just reveals in a conversation with his character Kaulo that he killed Arthur, and that it was because Arthur was super gacked out. He was fucked up on booze. Arthur was fucked up on opium or something.
Which is like,
and it was an accident.
This is probably the single biggest retcon of the series, the movie. Yes. And it's like, why did it even need to happen? Because Arthur's death appears off screen. It does not happen in the series. It doesn't happen in the movie.
Yeah.
Like, his brother was basically on the way out of this world by the end of the series. I don't even know what this gets us.
Yeah.
Having Tommy be the one who actually killed him.
Yeah. And so the other thing that happens at this point is somehow Kahlo convinces politically, she seduces Tommy politically to go into Birmingham and reassert himself in the life of the Peaky Blinders and like take on Duke ostensibly. Right. And I felt like I didn't quite understand what she had said that had convinced him to do so, but we get the obligatory montage at this point. It's pretty cool shit. He throws on his suit. He gets all cleaned up.
Just that's some of the sexiest stuff in the show. Too.
It's very sexy.
Cillian Murphy just wears a suit like very few people do, like can, and he just like always looks good.
Cleans up well.
Oh.
And he's in this kind of what you think is a formerly quite lavish estate that he's living on that's just gone into a state of disrepair and neglect. And your guy Johnny has a great line. They're getting ready to get in the car to go into Birmingham. If Tommy's the Holy Ghost and Duke is his son, then I will need the fucking revolver. It's great. So they're off to find Duke, and I just asked myself why. I didn't know what Kahlo had done to get him invested in going into Birmingham.
I think because like the travelers are supposed to be such a magical people or in tune with the other world, the veil between worlds, the living and dead. There's also a thing that wasn't super convincing where like she's saying that like Zelda, her dead sister, who's Duke's mom, basically inhabits her body for a chunk of that whole like seduction process.
Oh, that's
it's almost
right.
like Tommy's actually sleeping with Zelda through
that scene was so eerie and weird. I started to take notes on it, but I don't know, there's going to be people listening to this and they're going to be like, you're skipping all this great stuff about the lore or whatever. I'm just going to be like, oh, look, it missed me entirely.
So Duke gets rid of the body. Beckett returns with another test of Duke's loyalty to the operation. And to Beckett himself. Ada is going to turn Duke in for the robbery. So that's why like she's going to turn him into the authorities. And Beckett tells Duke, now you gotta do your next hit has to be your aunt. You got to go kill Ada.
You can kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he has this great moment where he says to Duke, and the one part of this piece that I didn't really buy is how quickly they form some weird like father-son bond, at least on the Beckett side of things.
Yeah.
He expresses shame for his own son.
This is why it feels like this was like the pacing of this is like trying to compress a 6-episode season into 2 hours.
That's exactly what it felt like. Cause he's telling Duke, he's like, my son writes poetry, and he finds that emasculating. And that also seems like he knows that Tommy's writing a book and it's meant to be a dig that stings Duke.
Yeah.
And he says to Duke, if you were my son, I would cherish you. Make me proud. And this is after he's telling him to go kill his aunt.
Yeah, exactly.
And his dad's sister. It's really, really odd.
So Duke agrees to it. And there's this. So at the end of the montage, there's this sort of like a nice back and forth. Like Duke is on his way to basically kill his aunt while she's on her way to the police station.
Yeah. And Tommy's on his way to Birmingham.
Yeah. So they're like driving, and it's like Johnny Dogs is driving. Tommy's in the passenger seat. It's like basically it's like who's going to get there in time is what you think is happening.
Yeah.
But what's actually happening is the Ada stuff is happening well before Tommy and Johnny Dogs are ever going to get to her. And Duke is having his own crisis of conscience. So as Duke is like running up, he's trailing her. It's actually a pretty well shot through these this is my favorite part of the movie. It's a great it's a sort of like a tracking shot where you can see sort of Ada disappearing around a corner of the street, and then Duke is cutting through a factory of some sort, and it's like really deeply symbolic of like Ada was always the sort of the black sheep of the family insofar as she was like trying to live a normal life. Whereas like the rest of the Peaky Blinders are like in and among the working class rabble of Birmingham. And
if you have that 6 seasons of emotional investment, and Ada's been there since the first season, this is really fucked up.
And so we lose Ada as we follow Duke, and then and Duke goes up some stairs and then down some stairs, and all of a sudden he's right behind her. Like he knows the shortcuts of all this town.
Yeah.
He actually ends up ahead of her. Actually, I'm sorry about that. He ends up ahead of her, and he like ducks into one of the red phone booths.
The classic British red phone booth. Yeah,
and he's like ready, and then he just like starts almost like dry heaving. He's like, he's not going to be able to do it, and he's not going to be able to do it.
And you've got this kind of classical melodramatic triangle: a hero, a damsel in distress, and the villain, right? Yeah. And it's like they're casting the way that this is intercut, that Tommy's going to be the hero, but you kind of get the sense that he's not going to get there in time. It's cut in a way that I think is, well, first of all, I just think this entire section is so propulsive.
It's great.
I am fucking all in on these moments.
This is like what Peaky
Yeah.
Blinders feels like
Dude.
to me. It's what it should feel like, and there was just not enough of it in the movie.
Totally.
So yeah, and also it does this other thing that I think is that Stephen Knight, like sometimes Stephen Knight will like ramp up the drama of like making the killing really gory or like really drawing it out.
No.
Here, Barry Keoghan's like basically trying to warn her, because as he runs back out, now Ada's well ahead of him because he's been dry heaving in a phone booth. She's almost to the police station, and
You see the car of Tim Roth pull up, which now it becomes at this point a signature of his. He's got this vehicle that has bullet holes in it.
yep.
Did they establish where the bullet holes came from, or is that just part of his shtick?
Duke shoots. That's the car Duke shoots in like the prior scene.
Oh,
He just randomly shoots into a car, and it wasn't even clear why he was shooting into the
and
car.
it turns out to be Tim Roth's car?
Apparently.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
but it's
anyway,
it's
yeah.
right before he meets Tim
Okay,
Roth.
sure.
But anyways, so then Tim Roth gets out and starts to point the gun. And then it cuts back to Tommy and Johnny Dogs. You're like, oh, how close are Tommy and Johnny Dogs? Oh, no, they're still on that country road.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, pretty unceremoniously,
Yeah.
Ada gets a bullet in the head and a couple in the heart.
Yeah, it's punctual. It's procedural. It is just like, it's super
for-
cutthroat and cold.
For Tim Roth, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And then-
he says something to him, doesn't he? He says, I knew you couldn't do it or something.
He basically says, you've disappointed me.
Oh,
right?
he says,
Which is where it's like we've had this sort of like he's a stranger and now he's a father figure and now he's like
ashamed. Yeah.
He's abandoned his boy in the space of like 5 minutes of the movie, right? Or like 10
Totally.
minutes of the movie.
Which is, that is kind of a flaw in the way that this all plays out, to be honest with you. But the filmmaking is quite
Beautiful.
exquisite, dude. I wrote down like, this is a graphic novel come to life. Am I falling for this thing? Because
Yeah.
I was like amused and fairly entertained by the movie at this point, and like some of the lines, some of the performances, and but this is propulsive, just beautiful filmmaking.
Yeah.
Very speaking of graphic novels, Alan Moore, right? Didn't he write Road to Perdition?
Yeah.
Very Road to Perdition
Yeah, good
vibes.
call.
And then Tommy, they cut to Tommy and he's on that back road and he gets that sort of Romani vision.
Yep. And this is one of those moments where like one of the most beautiful things I think about the twin sides of Tommy Shelby is like his traveler side, his Romani side is always in these like hilly country, green, verdant fields of Britain. And then the sort of gangster side of him is in Birmingham. This is one of the few moments in the film that sort of calls back all of that visual imagery that was so rich throughout the series, because he's now on the road and Ada, the ghost of Ada, is there in front of him. Like they stop the car and there she is. Like he knows,
and it's
she's
beautiful.
dead. It's gorgeous.
It's beautiful. And by the way, it's Max Allan Collins who wrote Road to Perdition. Don't come at me, people who are graphic novel fans. Yeah, this part's really, really beautiful.
Yep. So Tommy
pursues Duke, but I want to ask you a question. Why? I don't remember. Does he find out? How does he find out what happened?
Well, I mean, I think the idea is like he knows Ada died because she appeared to him in a vision as a ghost.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry, Luke. I forgot that the Romani, they see things.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So he's in town. He's like, I gotta find Duke.
Yeah, I think so.
So where does he go?
So he goes to the garrison, the
Garrison pub, right?
Yeah.
This is like a common fixture of all the Peaky Blinders.
And not only that, it's also a symbol of the way sort of the more legitimate, but still vice part of their empire grew. Because it starts off, it's the pub they buy, I think, at the beginning of the first season, but it also at some point becomes a distillery. It's the Shelby Brothers Distillery. It's all these different things. It's a symbol of the growth of their empire. But now, of course, it's fallen to like Duke just gets control over it, and it's sort of fallen on hard times, or it's just not as much of an icon as it was. Tommy pursues him, starting at the garrison. And in the garrison, there are all these GIs, kind of carousing. There's a lead GI who looks to me a lot like Leo Woodall, although it is not Leo Woodall. It would have been a profound waste of Leo Woodall's talent.
That would have been some fucking weird stunt casting.
But I mean, this is also like stunt casting is one of the things that Peaky Blinders has done well over the years. So basically, this is the first sense that we get that like Tommy does still have some of his edge, because he's basically trying to clear out this bar. He wants these, soldiers to get out. He's got to find his son. He's got to get to work.
Well, I like the way that Stephen Knight played this. He's still got some of his riz and his reputation and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But not with everybody. And
Not with these GIs.
Certainly not with the soldiers.
Again, because like these GIs, they might have come from all parts of Britain. Who knows where these guys came from? They're not Birmingham lads.
And if you've seen this in a movie 100 times, you've seen it a million times, and it's always satisfying. It's the classic, oh, who the fuck is this guy?
Yep.
And so Tommy gets to flex.
And I do think like this is a moment where like in true Peaky Blinders fashion, it's not like flex by beating the crap out of him, not flex by pointing a gun in his face, which is what a lesser, like a
lesser man would do. Yeah.
He pulls out a grenade,
dude,
pops the clip and stuffs it down the soldier's shirt. And the soldier just goes, runs out. Boom.
Yeah.
Really great moment.
It is really good. And I didn't even stop to ask myself questions about why the fuck did this guy run out of the pub? Why didn't he just take it and throw it? His first thought of his last 6 seconds on planet Earth are, I'm going to save my buddies.
I do not think that's what people
would. I don't think that's what you would do, dude.
It's so funny.
It's so great. It's a great scene, though. I mean, again, that's just such a trope, but it's always satisfying. It's like, you don't know who I am? Fuck you, that's who I am.
Yeah. And so like Tommy doesn't find Duke at the pub, but he does find, so Duke's little makeshift pig farm is actually like a bombed out building, right? It's like, it's got brick walls on all sides and it looks like it's a warehouse where the roof's basically been blown off probably by munitions or something. He confronts Duke and they roll around fighting in the mud until Duke basically gets him to cough up information about Beckett's operation and basically kind of start the healing process of father and son, I would say.
Yes. And I remember thinking to myself, there's a version of this storytelling which would have been about what happens when the Peaky Blinders are run by a much worse version of Tommy, which is effectively what Duke becomes. He's like a microwaved and really demonic mutant version of Tommy.
But only for 10 minutes.
But only for 10 minutes.
That's the amount of time this film has to show this transformation. Yeah.
But you can kind of tell that the ultimate heavy for a bad guy in this is going to be the Tim Roth character. So I was like, he's going to recruit. I could tell he's going to try to recruit Duke to be good. And I'm like, am I going to fall for it? And this is kind of where that starts to play out. And that's the first glimpse of it, is they have this big mud wrestling scene around the pigs. Yeah. There is a very funny moment at the end of their little wrestling match where they're punching each other and rolling around in mud. It's really convincing, gross mud shit too, by the way.
Oh man.
Barry Keoghan is completely fucking swamped with mud.
Yeah. No, there's some good mud scenes in season 5 and 6. Like Stephen Knight might be like he's the Shakespeare of mud.
He's a mud fetishist. And then they have this great reveal of a little bit of a medium wide where like you could see a little group of pigs are looking at them. It's very, very funny.
What are you guys doing?
Yeah, totally. Tommy seems to get a little bit of satisfaction at this moment that like he's got Duke where he wants him. He's going to recruit him to like help out now. So at this point in the story, Tommy is set. He's going to go visit the St. Elizabeth mortuary and say goodbye to Ada. But you know that it's going to be a kind of cat and mouse game with Beckett because, of course, Beckett's going to expect him there. Tommy says about as much. And he has this scene where he's confessing. He goes to the mortuary and he's confessing some of his sins and talking to over the dead body of Ada. He's over the body of Ada and says that he killed Arthur and that from this bad will come some good. And he says, I killed him because I wanted to be free of him.
That's so interesting because at the end of the season, he is free of Arthur. And then for some reason he gets retconned into not being free of Arthur, whatever.
I just have questions. Why did he feel like Stephen Knight that is? I'm going to say if he wanted to be free of him, I wrote down, that makes two of us because I wanted nothing to do with that. Arthur character drove me fucking crazy. Did Stephen Knight feel that way? Like what happened here? It's really odd that he retconned the killing of him.
Especially having now just finished season 6. Because I didn't bump on it when we watched the movie, but when I went back and watched season 6, I'm like, wait, Arthur basically gets taken care of. He's going to have like a short life, but maybe kind of a happy life or at least indeterminate life. Like he could have... Yeah. We didn't even need to bring Arthur up in this movie. He's sort of taken care of at the end of season 6. So it feels like a weird choice. I don't know why he does it.
But he's so, I agree, but he's so integral to the show.
Yeah, maybe he
that for Tommy to not, for Tommy to be like, oh, he's in Paris. Like they got to explain something about him. But I also kind of felt like maybe Stephen Knight came around to my way of seeing things, which is like Arthur sucks. He takes the energy out of everything that happens. But again, he fills that kind of role that this is where we just have to talk about it. He is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 1000th coming of Fredo Corleone.
Yeah.
I've always taken care of you, Fredo.
Taking care of me? You're my kid brother, and you take care of me? Did you ever think about that? Huh? Did you ever once think about that?
This is very Michael Corleone. I have to kill my brother.
Yep.
Instead of it being this calculated chess move like it was with Michael in The Godfather, this is very like passion driven. He's like a heat of the moment thing. I fucking can't stand you. He has his moment of killing him, whatever.
Which again, he's like suppressed that urge for like 36 episodes, and then off screen he finally loses his patience.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah.
We know that this is coming. There's going to be a shootout, and it takes place in what I'm calling the parking garage of the mortuary. It's the loading docks, and there's some horses back there for reasons. And it's a really effective set piece. Yeah. I thought this part kicked ass. So Tim Roth pulls up in his car that's got bullet holes in the door. Then there's this great moment where
a big Sten gun like that.
A Sten, that's what that's called. Yeah. With a side loading clip.
Yeah. Yep. And this is like where it's like we're in
magazine.
A side loading magazine. This is a new era because like this whole show has been about Tommy guns basically.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. And they pull out this Sten, so it's like we are clearly in the 1940s now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool looking gun. That's what Roth is rocking. Tommy's just got a standard handgun of some variety.
His trusty pistol.
Okay. Gotcha. And he has this great moment that reminded me of the significance of this specific style of hat in the movie Miller's Crossing. Yeah. It's the most important part of Miller's Crossing. Tommy takes his hat and he sets it down, and it's got this little feeling. For me, I read it that way because Miller's Crossing is like maybe my first or second favorite movie of all time.
Absolutely iconic.
They have this great shootout, and then they both run out of ammo. A little reminiscent of John Cusack and Dan Aykroyd at the end of Grosse Point Blank when they're both out of ammo and they start giving each other shit. So they start talking back and forth. This is a great, very video game, I would call it, kind of a set piece. It feels, there's many moments in this movie that felt video gamey to me. I'm just going to say, it feels a little Grand Theft Auto.
I mean, like parts of the whole show. That's one of the reasons I kind of like it.
Yeah.
I will say that like this is a moment also where like Tommy comes by his pugilism honestly, and Tim Roth might be a little bit of a pretender because Tim Roth is just unloading this clip and Tommy says something sort of this might almost be a direct quote, but he's like, Sten gun has 30 rounds. What are you at?
Oh yeah.
And then Tim Roth like basically fires off 2 or 3 more and he's out. So like Tommy kind of knew what he was doing and still ran out of ammo, but like it was like Roth just kind of got ahead of himself. So like this is just another instantiation, I think, of like Tommy is like born and bred for this work, and no matter how bad of a guy you are, because Tim Roth has literally no redeeming qualities. He is just like capital E evil in this movie. Even that deep dark evil can't make you as efficient and effective of a killer as like years in a trench in World War I, and then Tommy's life after. So
interesting. That's a great read of it. And I think that the whole out of ammo thing plays well. That's why it reminded me of Grosse Point Blank, because that's what happens. They both run out of ammo. Yeah. And Dan Aykroyd says, like, are you empty? And he says, yeah, you.
Workers of the world, unite. Look at that, empty. Solidarity, baby. You out?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You throw that gun at me?
No.
Greatest movie ever. This particular scene could have been produced by Rockstar. Very, very Grand Theft Auto. But it ends because they're both out of ammo. Tim Roth kind of
scampers away.
Totally. He scampers away, gets in his car, drives off, and Tommy jumps on a horse, and we get more bad CGI backgrounds. Like the setting is beautiful. They're on location somewhere in Birmingham, but it just the background. I'm like, you can see it.
Well, it's because like even when you're on location in Birmingham, you might be able to find some of those old factories and stuff, but the rest of the city is going to be a modern city. So you're going to have to put some CGI in the background.
Yeah.
It just didn't do a great job of it. I also want to say like he gets back on a black horse, and there's another one of those beautiful set pieces where he's like, once again, Tommy is climbing onto a jet black horse, which calls back to his horse from the show called Danger, who dies in season 5. And then this is another thing that kind of gets retconned. Like the show ends with Tommy basically riding away or having a white horse. Like he's like had some sort of transition, and that the horse he's riding at the end of the show is different than the beginning. It's like not a particularly subtle suggestion that like Tommy has sort of fought his demons at least to a stalemate, like enough of a stalemate that he's not putting a gun to his head all the time wanting to die. And then so for him to, I guess it's like maybe him re-embracing that role of killer to hop back on the black horse for one last ride, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's not how it came across to me.
This is my second favorite section of the movie. I think for all the reasons you're describing, and you're bringing up some things that are helping me kind of put an exclamation point on how I like this section, because there's a distinction between the two of them, Tim Roth and Cillian Murphy's characters, when they're exchanging unpleasantries and firing guns at each other.
Yeah.
Your description of it aligns with how I was thinking. You start to feel like I'm well aware that Tommy Shelby survived 6 seasons of subterfuge and probably attempts on his life. And despite all the ghosts and everything else that he's experienced, he's still alive.
Yeah.
So maybe he is immortal.
Yeah.
You know, you start to think about these things.
The Immortal Man.
He seems to give no fucks during the scene, whereas Beckett starts to show a little frailty or a little vulnerability. I don't know. There's something about him. It's just like these two people are not the same.
And Tommy's been saying,
like Tommy's made of stronger stuff.
and I think that is one of the things about like World War I. Like he said a number of times in the final seasons to Arthur, like, we're already dead. We're dead men. Like dead men can't, like basically dead men can't feel fear. We died in those trenches.
That's right.
And and I think that's kind of returning to him.
And the horse evoking that kind of 1914 to 1919 sort of roots is really, really good.
Yep.
At this point, I would describe the movie as having set the stage. The chess pieces are in place. Tommy's got Duke on his side. This is one of the weakest scenes in the movie. He meets him. I think it's at the Garrison. It's somewhere. He meets Duke. He pours 2 whiskeys.
Yeah.
And it's one line in this whole scene. He's like, I'm told you want to kill the man who killed Ada. And Duke says, yeah, I do. One question, one answer, very weak scene. I'm like, where's the incredulity on the part of Tommy?
Yeah.
Why is this so easy? Why is this it's so easily earned that he's like, yeah, cool. I guess we're going to go into business of trying to avenge Ada when you were willing to kill her?
Yeah.
Like half an hour ago. Anyway,
Right.
So Tommy burns a Romani pyre for Ada. We keep saying Romani. Feels weird, but I'm going to go with it. Then we're treated to a slow motion version of Massive Attack's Teardrop. Yeah. This was my favorite needle drop.
Oh man, great.
This was good. Yeah. I liked this.
Absolutely.
I was all in.
Amazing.
Okay. He gets in touch with his good old pal Stephen Graham, aka Hayden Stagg, the longtime character from the show, who's got he's got the deep connections to the docks and the laborers. They're hatching this scheme to infiltrate the Nazi counterfeit
Stephen
operation.
Graham, a guy who's just he can do his like the accents within his country pretty well. He does a pretty good Liverpudlian accent here. Because he's a Liverpool guy.
And he's just got this. Stephen Graham's one of those people that it doesn't matter when he enters a movie, you're just like instantly this guy's he's charismatic and interesting, you know, minimally.
Yeah.
It's quite effortless for that guy. They hatch a scheme to infiltrate the Nazi counterfeit operation, do some good for the world, and ideally kill Beckett at the same time. And there's a great line from Tommy that speaks to that, even though it doesn't feel like it makes any sense, if I'm being honest. He's like, there's a man I want dead and a weapon that could lose us the war. So he's like, oh, that's why we're going to attack the Nazis. I don't know.
I do think that like we might want to save this for later, but like I do think it's great and it is perfect for the universe of Peaky Blinders. That it's not, the weapon is not the V2 rocket or anything like that. It's money,
counterfeit money.
Right? Like there's a lot between Oswald Mosley and some Boston gangsters in the final seasons where there's like there are these conversations about like the currency of Britain isn't actually money, it's blood.
Yeah.
So many of you assholes have money because it's like the aristocracy. It's also, effectively one of the birthplaces of capitalism. There's wild amounts of money in this country. That's not actually the currency that lubricates the gears. It's blood. But that's also the back and forth of like Tommy Shelby. He can always justify the next killing in pursuit of they call it business, right?
I think this is where you would benefit so much from having watched all 6 seasons before sitting down to watch this movie. Because, and this is what I'm getting at, that's the second time that a one line of dialogue in this movie has to do some extremely heavy lifting to like convince you of why this is all happening. The first was when he says, I'm told you want to kill the man who killed Ada. And Duke is like, yep, I do. And he's like, cool, let's do this. Yeah. And the second is this line of, there's a man I want dead and a weapon that could lose his war. And Tommy and Hayden Stagg are kind of like, look, I guess we're doing this. Everything feels very underdeveloped, kind of undermotivated. Yep. And then there's a scene that I have to ask you about, Luke. I bumped on it. I laughed. I thought it was very odd. Tommy is on a boat. He pulls out a typewriter to keep working on his fucking manuscript. I think there's a line in it where they show an insert that it says, I think it says this, the story's conclusion is up to Duke. Did I invent that?
It's something along those lines. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
and I'm like, it's like this fucking guy pulled up a laptop on the boat ride over to kill the Nazis.
And he's like sitting on he's like sitting at the front of the ship.
Very weird.
Like, and these are narrow boats. They're basically cargo boats that they take down the canals from like Birmingham to London to Liverpool. Like a lot of that shipping and stuff in Britain was all done with like canals, and they're called narrow boats.
Yeah. But can we talk about the fact that he pulls out a typewriter?
No, it's preposterous.
It's so silly. Another silly thing. Okay, look, I am going to just tell everybody right now. For the rest of this movie, I get it's fucking dorky, man. Yeah. Duke discloses the plan to Beckett, but it's obviously not the actual plan. It all feels super rushed. Like, this is a really transparent trap that's been set by Duke. We have been led to believe, and I believed until this happened, that Beckett was a really shrewd and clever chess.
He gets fooled way too easily.
It's like, is he fucking stupid?
So Duke basically comes back and says like, I'm sorry I messed up. I'll do better next time. Can I still be your son?
And Beckett's like, yeah, come on in.
Yeah, sure. Great. Yeah,
totally. Okay. Let me show you where everything's at. Kylo goes to work on Duke. She's seducing him in the same way that she was seducing Tommy at the beginning of the movie. Again, kind of a thankless femme fatale role of she's manipulating things behind the scenes to devise this plan to kind of, I'm just going to say quadruple, I lost count, quadruple cross Tommy. She hands Duke a bullet with Tommy's name on it.
And it's not clear if like she's doing this because the ghost of her sister Zelda wants revenge or the ghost of her sister Zelda wants Tommy to be at peace.
Didn't know about any of this stuff. Don't care. It was some very Shakespearean shit. But hey, even when I read Shakespeare in college, I didn't really like that aspect of it, all the ghost stuff. This is the only use for the Peaky Blinders movie for women is this role. It's tough. Yeah. There isn't anything remotely trustworthy about the character of Kylo since the very first frame she entered. But of course, that has to be the classic Achilles heel of geniuses and really powerful men. Is there's some woman that they just can't get enough of.
Yep.
The whole operation to kill Beckett and destroy the counterfeit operation just feels, again, rushed. It's also a bit complicated, and I would say a bit unsatisfying. And I'm going to say this note for you, Luke, because we have to get to other shit.
Sure.
I don't even want to fucking talk about the convoluted bullshit with the boats and all that kind of stuff.
They're supposed to be pulling up on these boats, the Peaky Blinders, but the boats are actually a decoy. The important part of the way this whole is set up for the character of Tommy is Tommy's going to go through these tunnels that have been blown out and abandoned for years.
Yeah.
And that's him sort of finally going back into the trenches, back under. He's said it a million times in the series. We were underground.
And tons of cross-cutting to memories of World War I.
Of like, the first bayonet he ever bayoneted into a German soldier. And so that is like it's sort of a ritual cleansing once more into the breach, my friends, sort of thing. We pop up. Stephen Graham thankfully gets away because he's the only person on these boats, the decoys. The boats are armed with explosives. The boats blow up, throwing Beckett and his cronies into disarray.
Yeah, I would say a modestly impressive set piece, but nothing like...
It's really not as good as the shootout you were talking about.
No, before, and not satisfying given how rushed and overly complicated, but at the same time sort of transparently obvious some of the setup felt like.
Yep.
Can I just ask you something?
Yeah.
In the final scenes of this Peaky Blinders movie, can we talk about Cillian Murphy's wardrobe? He is giving intense Indiana Jones with the bandana around his neck. He's got the short sleeve white Henley, maybe a little Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series.
Oh, no, totally. Yeah, no, he's giving like adventurer.
Very, very threw me off, man.
When there's a bit of a cave in when he's in the tunnel, and then he comes up alive, but like his shirt's all ripped, and it's like. It's a little for people who love slight Irishmen. It's a little thirst trappy too. Like
totally.
He's sexy and he's dangerous.
He's very sexy.
Just survived a cave in.
Yeah.
It's
at this point I wanted to take control of his character, because it felt like Uncharted 4.
Yeah. Exactly.
But back to Beckett. What's he doing with our guy Duke?
So the explosion basically helps Duke sort of get away because when the explosion happens, Beckett knows that he's been double crossed, and instantly Duke gets away from him after the explosion. But
keep in mind, speaking of seductions, Duke has fully seduced Beckett again because he's pouring a drink and he's treating him like a son again at this point for reasons we don't quite understand.
Yeah, exactly. Well, because he thinks because he was so easily duped that like Duke is like totally across his dad again.
Yeah. Even has this line where he says, "What kind of father abandons his son?"
Yeah.
And he's like doing that weird thing. And it's an unusually weak line from the Beckett character because you're like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Beckett basically just drives straight at Tommy with his car. Tommy, being just like the steely-eyed killer that he has always been, just drills him between the eyes with his pistol. And then he's ready to die. He does the full Jesus pose, the full platoon pose.
Why did they do that?
Everything. And then it's Duke who grabs him around the midsection. And also Tim Roth is shooting at him at this time. And so Cillian Murphy has taken 2 bullets. He's ready, but he's taken out Beckett. He's also, they've blown up the money at this point too. So Beckett knows his whole game is.
Which, by the way, when they blew up the money, it looked like $50 had blown up. It did not look like 437 million pounds or whatever.
75 million pounds.
Yeah, it looked like $50 blew up. Like, I think Netflix spent a lot of money on this movie.
To be fair, it was at least 2 reams of Office Depot paper.
They did not use very much Monopoly money. They could have just fucking CGI'd that shit.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But instead of just like taking his end like he wanted it, Duke sort of saves him. And it leads to this whole thing where basically Duke, like Tommy asks Duke to put a bullet in him.
He hugs it out. They hug it out a little. Not convincing, by the way. Yeah.
And he's like there kind of
nursing him
a little bit, and then just says, use the bullet. So Callow had given him the bullet to like do Tommy in. And this is a thing that, appears. It's happened in numerous gangster movies. It's happened like several times in Peaky Blinders. It's a recurring motif.
What, a name on a bullet? What's a recurring bullet? Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I don't remember any of this and shit I've watched.
Yeah. He actually had like.
You're saying it's recurring in the TV show, not in just gangster movies in general.
Both. I've seen bullets on bullet or names on bullets in other gangster shows, but but in this show, like he has, when he's considering offing himself at the end of the series, he has a bullet with his name on it.
Got it.
Yeah. They hug it out a little, and Duke does, the thing that Tommy was never able to do. One of the recurring tropes of the Tommy character from season 1, episode 1 is he's like so traumatized. He's like always putting a gun to his head. Like, is this the time I finally pull the trigger?
And this is it. And it's his son that does it. And and back to the horse thing, which I now know the significance of the horse thing quite a bit more than I did when I was watching this movie. He said something like, treat me like you would a horse, you know, you got to do this.
Yep.
Does Duke actually say this line? I wrote this down, but I almost don't believe it because again, there's a lot of great language and great lines in this. Yeah. We did it, Dad. We fucking did it. Does he say that?
I don't know that I took that note.
I think he does. Well,
does he?
This is the second time that we have gotten to see Barry Keoghan and an injured Cillian Murphy working together. It's a wonderful performance and a heartbreaking dynamic between the two of them in Dunkirk, which you have not seen.
I have not seen Dunkirk. No.
You need to see that movie. It slaps fully. I will say that I struggled with Tommy and Duke's relationship in the Peaky Blinders movie, though.
The movie then ends with a VO voiceover from Tommy, which I really liked this as an ending soliloquy until I finished season 6. And it's still a pretty good soliloquy. I just think they wrap it up so much better at the end of season 6.
Well, I think that was what you're leading into the question I was going to ask you. Like, Luke, you have way more invested in this. You've seen all 6 seasons and you've seen the movie.
Yeah.
What did you think?
There were moments of so it's a bleak series. It's always been bleak from the very beginning, but there was like some panache to it. Just the use of the Nick Cave song Red Right Hand, which is like a song I've loved since I was a teenager.
Yeah.
Like that. And they use it in so many different ways. And in later seasons, they bring it back with they do covers of it in ways that are really effective. They actually did a cover of Red Right Hand here that just seemed sad in one note. Like that happened in this movie. They bring it back once. Do
you think they just didn't maybe want to pay for the license? What do you think there?
They're getting Tom York songs for the series.
No, they had to have been able to. Yeah, it's Netflix. It's Netflix. Train Dreams. They just did this. It's better use of Nick Cave than Train Dreams in my view, but okay.
Yeah. Fair. As bleak as it got, it was always fun. You're right. The Arthur character gets really tough to watch.
Yeah.
But the bleakness was always leavened with this the kind of the thrill and also just sort of taking a sort of a guilty thrill in how much carnage the Peaky Blinders are always causing. And I just didn't feel as fun as I wanted it to feel. To wrap up.
As someone who just watched the first 2 seasons and couldn't even get through the first episode of season 3.
Yeah.
The show had kind of left my sphere of interest. I think the Peaky Blinders movie, a bit like House of Dynamite, another Netflix movie, is Netflix kind of at their best and their worst at the same time. It had a budget. It had these amazing locations, had a perfect cast, including our queen, Rebecca Ferguson. But I think especially with Peaky Blinders, everything felt a little Temu, a little rushed, a little sloppy. It also looked
a little drop shipped.
It looked a little, like a bit for hire. There were some journeyman creatives doing very competent work that with all the fixins you'd get from Netflix when they're giving you kind of a blank check. Everything you'd expect for this really huge budget. But I think, unlike you, for anyone who hasn't built up 13 years of investment in watching this show, and if you did, this is the good shit. I think for a lot of people who watch this, it's got like a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow,
I think this show is very, very popular. Yeah. It's got plenty of fan service in it. I think it could have been co-written by someone from the subreddit for Peaky Blinders. Like this probably has a very big approval rating, but also has those things that Matt Damon warned us about recently when talking about how Netflix is telling showrunners and creatives, you have to put a set piece in the first 75 or 80 seconds. Guess what? Or 5 minutes. This one was the first 75 seconds. I'm calling that bombing scene that.
Yeah, you think so?
It was an explosion.
Yeah.
You know, it has to have
a literal bang.
It has to have a lot of feeding sort of the information to the viewer in a sort of ham-fisted way. Well, I talked about those two pieces of dialogue that are just like, I'm going to tell you what's happening next.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff, even at the end when they're coming up with their operation to attack the Nazis and kill the Beckett character.
Yeah.
And then I think about Sinners, which I watched right after watching Peaky Blinders. I watched Peaky Blinders on Monday. I watched Sinners on Tuesday. Sinners had a budget of $90 million. This movie, Peaky Blinders, The Immortal Man, probably had a budget, from all speculation, of at least $70 million. Yeah. Meanwhile, they are not in the same stratosphere creatively, culturally.
Yeah.
I would even say sexually. Because one has Michael B. Jordan and...
Well, and that's why, like, thinking back to we were talking about the directors, Tom Harper versus my guy, Anthony Byrne. And again, like might be recency bias a little bit, but with a much smaller budget, with a Netflix TV series budget, you could see the director Anthony Byrne was like, we're doing Nazi stuff in England. Like, let's try to make these scenes like feel like Inglourious Bastards. Like there's this one really beautiful scene. I think it's in season 5, if I'm remembering correctly. Sorry, fans, if I'm missing that. But like,
I think you're safe in this episode.
It's literally shot through a champagne coupe, like those towers of champagne coupes. Like they're basically at like a black shirt rally for the aristocracy, and they're having this tense back and forth between Tommy and his wife at the time, and Oswald Mosley, the Nazi, and his mistress, who's also hardcore Nazi. And it's like literally shot through these champagne glasses. It's like gorgeous, and so like. The thing you were saying about like journeyman filmmakers making things, like a journeyman filmmaker who's competently but doesn't have a ton of vision what they're doing with 70 or 80 whatever $1 million versus like what somebody who has like a real panache can do with a lot less money but like a vision for a scene.
I have one movie I want to shout out because I love to talk about like a movie that something makes me think about.
Yeah. A
movie directed by a guy named Phil Joannou, who directed the U2 Rattle and Hum documentary. And he did, I think he did a couple other movies. He did the Richard Gere movie called Final Analysis, if I remember correctly. Phil Joannou directed a movie called State of Grace. Irish mob in New York City.
Okay.
Sean Penn, Gary Oldman. Gary Oldman, his character.
When did this movie come out?
1990.
Okay.
Gary Oldman's character is called Jackie. He's the kind of Fredo Corleone character.
Yeah.
Robin Wright is the love interest. Ed Harris, John Turturro. Hell's Kitchen, which I think is now called Clinton. Soundtrack by Ennio Morricone.
I'm Irish muscle in these circumstances. We drink and we shoot people, and I'm going to get caught in it. That's what you want? Fine. I'm warning you. I got to go back to Boston.
You're an asshole. You're talking like an asshole.
I'll run away. I'll run the fuck away when none of you can fucking find me.
Jesus Christ, I thought you kitchen guys were tough guys.
I'm not tough, Nick!
Just an amazing movie. If you haven't seen that movie, I think it's like one of the most underrated.
State of Grace.
Irish Mafia in New York. I wanted to talk about Cillian Murphy.
All right.
Where are you at on Cillian Murphy? You like him?
I love Cillian Murphy. I think he's like one of the favorite actors of that generation. Every time he's on screen, I'm like getting closer. Like I might just give him a little kiss if I'm in my living room. I have not seen a lot of his
You're
movies,
behind on some of his movies,
so far behind.
No, but I'm actually not that surprised. Some of the ones you said you haven't seen, I'm not that shocked by. Dunkirk, I get it. I didn't see Oppenheimer, speaking of Christopher Nolan, until recently.
Well,
I didn't love Oppenheimer the way that it got appreciated and where it's at in the history. Christopher Nolan for me is Dunkirk, it's Interstellar, it's The Prestige. And then the rest of the stuff that he's really famous for, including Oppenheimer, including Dark Knight, I'm just kind of like, meh.
Yeah, I mean, for a superhero movie, I think like I like his trilogy about as well as any other superhero trilogy I've seen.
Yeah,
kind of grading on a curve there. And Cillian Murphy is like, I loved him in 28 Days Later. That's probably one of my comps. But then I think he was like just kind of a character actor, almost a journeyman. He would always come in with these kind of great roles. He kind of reminds me of like an Irish, like almost like a Daniel Day-Lewis or something. Like I don't know if he's method, but like he always comes with like some super intense.
Yeah, he's an intense guy.
A weird take on.
He started in theater.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But I think I was like not watching movies when he started to become a leading man, kind of, or like a more important like part of an ensemble cast, and so I just missed a bunch of his stuff.
I'm going to give you a bag of 3 movies to watch. Right. Well, you've seen 28 Days Later, so that's one of my 3 that if I would point out in his career. A movie shot like he still looks gorgeous when he's being shot with a $3,000 video camera that I also owned called a Canon XL1. That's what he shot that with. This is one of the things I love about Danny Boyle. And then of course he did 28 Years Later with a shit ton of iPhones.
Yeah.
The other 2 movies that I want to bring up. So I just want to do some kind of non-Peaky Blinders Cillian Murphy appreciation.
Sure.
Got to start with Red Eye. Wes Craven movie came out in 2005.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
His character is on this plane. And this is a tiny bit of a spoiler, but he's sort of the villainy guy. The movie came out 20 years ago, if you haven't seen it. And he has this kind of a role with a Rachel McAdams character where he's up to no good, but you don't question whether or not he's up to no good. So you don't really like undermine the character of Rachel McAdams because you're kind of thinking, whatever this Cillian Murphy guy is saying, I'm seduced fully.
Yeah. Wait a minute. You're not stalking me, are you?
No. You got me.
I'm sorry.
And the other movie I wanted to shout out would be The Wind That Shakes the Barley. Came out in 2006, directed by the great Ken Loach. It's about the Irish War of Independence and the Irish Civil War, shot by the legendary Barry Ackroyd, who we talked about on the House of Dynamite episode.
Yeah.
Because he shot that. He shot Hurt Locker, Captain Phillips. Beautiful looking movie. Ken Loach is a legend. And Cillian Murphy's great in that. It's a great movie.
Wind That Shakes the Barley.
The Wind That Shakes the Barley.
So your 3 comps were all within like 5 years of each other.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I don't think I'm a completionist either with the stuff that he's done. Tim Roth is a fantastic villain in this, but you and I have talked about this movie before. This is not his best scummy, hate-worthy role. It would definitely be his character in Rob Roy.
Oh, yeah.
You watched that movie, right? We talked about this movie.
So
it's been a million years.
I watched this movie as part of a double feature with my mother at the Fox Theater.
Oh my God.
It was
knowing what happens in that movie. That's really disturbing.
Pulp Fiction into Rob Roy for my dear blessed evangelical mother.
And she's still talking to you.
She still seems to like me. But
Rob Roy came out the same year as Braveheart, I think.
Yeah.
But it got massively overshadowed, of course.
I don't think I've seen it since high school, but I remember being like, oh my God, if I survive this, if mom doesn't kill me for taking her to these 2 movies, I'm going to really remember. Rob Roy's great. And Tim Roth is an amazing villain.
He's so disgusting. He plays a character called Archibald Cunningham. And my favorite memory of that performance, he's this terrible dude. He gets a peasant girl pregnant.
Yeah.
And she says she loves him. And he says,
then it will not be the first bastard born in Scotland.
Archie, I love you.
Love is a dunghill, Betty, and I am but a cock that climbs upon it to crow.
Love is a dunghill, Betty, and I am but a cock who climbs atop it to crow. Just a line that always stuck out to me. I had to go look that up, but I was like, God, he's so gross in that movie. All right. Do you have any other thoughts on the Peaky Blinders movie, The Immortal Man, before we wrap, Luke?
Just that, like, it's sort of like the Guy Ritchie. Like, I kind of want to go back and rewatch I actually kind of want to rewatch this series start to finish, and I kind of want to do it at the same time I'm rewatching Boardwalk Empire and just kind of compare.
Oh, yeah. I think I would come out on saying that Boardwalk Empire, obviously I finished Boardwalk Empire down to the last drop, and I thought it went out strong.
It did.
Fucking love that show.
And again, though, I thought the series went out strong. The Peaky Blinders series went out strong. And it's two different kinds of sort of historical filmmaking. One is the more Boardwalk Empire is like Terrence Winter, high prestige TV, which means it's like sort of like high period drama cinema equivalent. And this again is like the pulpier version. And I think there's a place like is it high art? No. Is it a really propulsive story that made me want to like dig into history? You and I were talking about this video games. Like I play every Assassin's Creed video game, even though they suck, just because I like being in, ancient Egypt, whatever, or, Japan or whatever. It's just like, I love historical settings. And as much as I love a prestige period drama like Boardwalk Empire, I also have like a real love for like the pulpier, the Guy Ritchie, Guy Ritchie Sherlock. I loved. Just so much fun.
Loved them both, actually.
Yeah.
Were there two of those or three?
At least two. Yeah, I don't remember the third.
I brought up a weird show that I do think, because we talked about it on Monday, The Tudors. I know that The Tudors and Peaky Blinders you wouldn't think would have very much in common, but just in general, the kind of lots of really rich dialogue.
Yeah.
Lots of, and it's Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, Henry Cavill's in that, Annabelle Wallis, who's Grace in Peaky Blinders is in it. Natalie Dormer,
who's queen.
You like her?
Dormer,
yeah. So watch Boardwalk Empire
and watch The Tudors, because the Tudors.
Did you watch Tudors?
Opera. Yeah.
Loved that show.
No, it's
the first thing I ever saw Henry Cavill in, by the way.
I don't even think I realized that was Henry Cavill because
he's like his main guy. Yeah. He's like his buddy,
Jonathan Rhys. Yeah,
his bro is Jonathan Rhys-Meyers who plays King Henry.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to do it for this episode of All Those Moments. We haven't decided yet what our next movie is going to be. I am very interested in the following. You missed the trailers for this.
Yeah.
So you might not have seen this, but there's a new movie called Omaha starring John Magaro and the newest David Lowery movie who directed The Green Knight, which I fucking loved. Did you see The Green Knight?
No, but that's a Dev Patel, right?
Yep. And A24.
Yeah.
Such a great movie. Called Mother Mary is this new movie that's coming out.
Okay.
Oh, it looks so good. And then should we do, I don't know, I was going to ask you this in real time here. Should we do the Zendaya Robert Pattinson movie, the A24 movie called The Drama? Have you seen the trailers for that?
No, I haven't seen the trailers for it.
Okay. It's A24. Trailer left me feeling a little cold. It reminded me kind of like a dark version of The Materialists, which if you listened to that episode where we talked about that, not my thing at all. Yeah, okay. Oh, and by the way, speaking of Guy Ritchie, he has a new movie coming out on May 15th from Black Bear Pictures, who also produced Train Dreams, by the way,
interesting.
Called In the Gray, starring Henry Cavill, Eiza Gonzalez, and Jake Gyllenhaal.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's going to be wide release. I talked to Joe about it from the Magic Lantern.
Yeah.
So he may or may not want to bring it to the Magic Lantern, but
okay.
I would love to see a new Guy Ritchie movie, especially with those actors and the fact that it's a Black Bear Pictures movie.
We've been doing
who are really cool, by the way.
Yeah, no, totally.
They're producing a lot of sick shit.
Honestly, like Guy Ritchie's, like he took the Gentleman movie that he made right at the beginning of the pandemic and turned it into a series, like last year or something. And it's like I watched the movie. The movie was fine. The series I liked a lot better. So I always have a soft spot for Guy Ritchie, and we've been doing some.
I'll watch anything
stuff.
he does. Yeah,
me too.
Totally. Yeah. So follow us on Instagram to see updates about what we're going to do next. I'll try to put together a little calendar of our upcoming episodes. Follow us on YouTube. I think the YouTube channel's been lighting up a little bit, so that's been fun to see. So subscribe there. That's probably the best place to follow the podcast. Of course, it's on Spotify. I upload video there too, but they automatically put an MP3 out for on the RSS feed for anybody who just wants audio only. That's cool. This is a very video forward podcast. Anyway, that's going to do it. Thank you to the Magic Lantern, of course. Thank you everyone for watching or listening. And thank you, Luke.
Thanks, Benji. That was more of a Jason Statham.